In the heart of a quiet village surrounded by rolling hills and silver streams, there lived a small child named Lila who always found comfort in the soft embrace of the night. Every evening, after the sun dipped behind the hills and the sky turned a velvety shade of deep blue, she would wrap herself in her favorite blanket, sit by the window, and listen closely to the gentle whisper of the night. The stars would appear, one by one, twinkling like tiny lanterns in the vastness above, and the cool breeze would carry the soothing sounds of the world settling down. Trees would sigh with the wind, crickets would sing their delicate songs, and somewhere far away, an owl would hoot softly as if whispering secrets to the moon. Lila believed that if she listened carefully enough, she could hear the stories the night carried from distant lands, tales of forgotten dreams, lost hopes, and wishes still waiting to come true. She imagined invisible threads of light weaving between the stars, connecting every soul who dared to dream under the same endless sky. On nights when she felt lonely or afraid, she would close her eyes and breathe in the cool night air, feeling it swirl around her like a mother's gentle hug. The darkness never scared her. Instead, it felt like a velvet curtain, soft and protective, hiding her safely from the worries of the day. The whispers of the night spoke of adventures beyond the mountains, magical forests where trees whispered back, and oceans that sang lullabies with their rolling waves. They spoke of gentle giants who cradled villages in their palms and carried them to better lands, of tiny fairies who mended broken hearts with threads spun from moonlight, and of distant stars that guided lost travelers home. Sometimes the night would whisper tales of bravery, where children just like her sailed on cloud ships to rescue forgotten dreams or rode on the backs of shooting stars to paint the sky with colors unseen by day. Other times, the night would simply hum a lullaby, so soft and warm that Lila would feel her eyelids grow heavy, her breathing slow, and her heart fill with a peaceful glow. Each whisper wrapped her in a world where anything was possible, where kindness always triumphed, and where even the smallest voice could echo among the stars. As she drifted closer to sleep, Lila often imagined herself becoming a part of the night itself, floating gently through the cool air, dancing with the mist, and twinkling with the stars. She saw herself gliding over oceans, waving to whales and dolphins who leaped joyfully through the moonlit waves, and soaring above forests where every leaf shimmered with a silver glow. She floated over sleepy towns where windows glowed warmly and where other children, just like her, dreamed quietly under cozy blankets. In her dream, the night whispered to her that she was never truly alone, that every dreamer was connected by invisible threads of hope, and that every gentle wish carried into the night became a star waiting to shine. Lila's heart swelled with the sweet comfort of knowing that no matter where she was part of a greater story written across the sky, a story told in the softest voice by the gentle whisper of the night. As she sank deeper into sleep, she could feel the night carrying her dreams far and wide, planting seeds of kindness, courage, and wonder wherever the breeze would blow. The whisper promised her that tomorrow would bring new adventures, new dreams to chase, and new stories to hear. Even in the quietest moments, when the world seemed still and empty, the gentle whisper of the night would always be there, breathing life into dreams, guiding lost hopes home, and wrapping every heart, no matter how small, in the tender embrace of the stars. Lila smiled in her sleep, the edges of her mouth lifting in peaceful contentment, as the night continued to hum its ancient, loving song, filling every corner of her world with the magic of possibilities yet to come, and the tender promise that even the smallest whisper could one day change the world. Far beyond the clouds and the tallest mountains, across the wide, endless ocean of the night sky, there lived a tiny star who had not yet found its place among the constellations, and though it shines softly with a delicate golden glow, it often felt overlooked amidst the brilliance of the larger stars that formed grand patterns and legendary shapes. Yet this little star, full of quiet dreams, longed for something more than simply sparkling from afar. It dreamed of adventure, of meaning, and, most of all, of finding a place where it truly belonged. So one evening, as the night unfolded its deep indigo blanket and scattered the heavens with silver dust, the little star gathered all its courage, wrapped its tiny light closer around itself like a cozy scarf, and decided to set out on a journey across the great vastness, drifting past glowing planets humming with ancient songs, weaving through clusters of glittering meteors that laughed and danced like playful children, and brushing against the cool mist of swirling cosmic clouds painted in shades of lavender and midnight blue. And as the little star floated along, it heard the gentle lullabies of far-off worlds where children wished upon stars just like it, sending soft echoes of hope and wonder into the night air, and each wish, like a feather-light note, wrapped itself around the little star, filling it with warmth and giving it the strength to drift further into the unknown, where magical things waited just beyond sight. Once, the little star found itself near a moon made entirely of crystal, where silver deer with shining antlers leapt gracefully from peak to peak, leaving trails of sparkling light behind them. And though the sight was breathtaking, the star knew it had to move on, for its heart yearned not just for beauty but for belonging, and so it continued its gentle journey, passing through whispering veils of stardust and gliding along the soft currents of cosmic winds that sang soothing songs of ancient times. And as it traveled, it met many other wandering lights. Some were tiny fireflies of space, glowing with laughter and mischief. Others were old, wise comets, their long icy tails shimmering with the memories of 1,000 journeys. But none stayed for long, and though the little star enjoyed their company, it often found itself alone again. Yet it never lost hope, for it believed that somewhere in the vastness was a place where it would be truly seen, truly needed, and truly loved. One especially still night, while the universe held its breath and even the galaxies seemed to whisper instead of roar, the little star floated quietly through a field of sleeping suns, each one pulsing slowly like the heartbeat of a slumbering giant. And it was there, in that hush, that the star heard a faint sound. A sound so soft and pure it made the star stop and listen more closely. It was the sound of a child's dream, drifting upward like a ribbon of golden mist, delicate and full of wonder, carrying wishes for kindness, laughter, and light. And the little star, feeling an irresistible pull, followed that dream across the velvet darkness until it came to a small blue planet tucked away in a quiet corner of the universe, a planet swirling with oceans and forests and mountains kissed by snow. And there, in a tiny village where warm lights glowed in windows and smoke curled lazily from chimneys, the star saw the dream's source. A child curled up under a thick blanket, hands tucked under their cheek, breathing softly in the deep, peaceful rhythm of sleep. And above that child's home, the sky was just a little bit darker, as if waiting for something special. And the little star realized that it could be that missing piece, that final brushstroke on the canvas of night. So gathering all the love and dreams it had collected along its journey, the little star glided down closer and closer, until it found its place directly above the sleeping child's window, anchoring itself gently among the other stars but shining just a touch brighter, just a touch warmer, sending a soft, steady light that bathed the child's room in a glow like a mother's lullaby. And from that night onward, the star stayed there, watching over the dreams of the little one, listening to their soft wishes, and weaving them gently into the fabric of the night, making sure they traveled safely across the sky to join the great symphony of hopes and dreams that kept the universe breathing in its endless, gentle rhythm. And though the star no longer roamed the vastness, it never felt trapped, because it had found something even better than adventure. It had found a purpose, a heart to protect, a life to brighten, and in return, it received a gift beyond measure. The sweet, silent gratitude of a soul it helped to dream deeper, to hope harder, and to wake with a heart full of wonder. And so the little star's journey to sweet dreams was not just its own but became part of every whispered wish, every giggle in the dark, every warm hug in the morning light, and every tiny heartbeat that believed, even without knowing why, that somewhere above, a small but mighty light watched over them with all the love a star could possibly hold, whispering goodnight in a voice made not of sound but of hope itself, forever twinkling in the gentle silence of the universe. On a night so calm that even the trees seemed to be holding their breath, and the rivers slowed to listen, the moon rose higher and fuller than ever before, bathing the world below in a soft, silvery light that made everything shimmer like a dream. And though the stars blinked their greetings and the gentle winds hummed their secret tunes, this night was different because the moon, in all its quiet majesty, decided it was time to sing a lullaby, one that would wrap every living thing in a tender embrace of peace. And so, gathering memories of laughter from the oceans, stories from the mountains, and hopes from the hearts of dreaming children, the moon began to hum a soft, lilting melody, so gentle that even the nightingales paused mid-song to listen. And as the notes floated down through the velvet sky, they touched the leaves of ancient trees, making them sway in slow, sleepy dances, and kissed the rooftops of cozy houses where little ones clutched their stuffed animals closer, feeling a sudden warmth settle over them, while in a quiet meadow, a family of deer curled into one another, their ears twitching gently to the moon's soothing voice. And far beyond the fields, even the restless waves of the distant seas grew still, cradling the ships that bobbed atop their surface as if rocking them to sleep. And within the melody, the moon wove tales of stardust rivers where dreams floated like little paper boats, of hidden valleys where the flowers only bloomed under the watchful gaze of kind-hearted night spirits, and of skies so vast and deep that they could hold every wish ever made without losing a single one. And high up in tree houses and tucked away in bedroom forts, children closed their eyes and slipped into dreams colored in hues of wonder and endless possibility, feeling as though they were being gently carried through a sky made just for them, with every note of the moon's lullaby painting new paths to adventures beyond imagining. And even the creatures of the forests and hills, who usually kept watch through the night, found themselves yawning great, contented yawns as the melody wound around them like a soft, silken ribbon, guiding them into dreams of sun-dappled clearings and fields where they could chase butterflies made of light. And slowly, the whole world seemed to sway and breathe in perfect rhythm, a heartbeat of peace pulsing through every corner of the earth, while above it all, the moon sang on, its voice a comforting murmur that promised safety and belonging, and the clouds gathered closer to one another, forming fluffy islands of sleep where the stars could nestle in and doze for a while. And as the moon's lullaby deepened, it began to tell stories meant only for the dreamers, the ones who dared to believe that magic still lived in the gentle rustle of leaves, in the sparkle of raindrops on morning grass, and in the unspoken promises of the night. And as these stories unfurled like golden threads weaving through the minds of sleeping listeners, the world became a place where no fear could enter, no sadness could linger, only a boundless comfort that cradled every soul in a warm, invisible hug. And even the winds, those restless travelers who usually hurried from hill to valley and back again, slowed to a stop, curling up against the hillsides and falling into the deepest sleep they had ever known, and somewhere, deep in the heart of a little village with cobblestone streets and lamplights, flickering gently against ivy-covered walls, a young child dreamed of climbing a ladder made of moonbeams, each step a soft note of the song, leading higher and higher until they reached the very heart of the sky, where the moon waited with open arms, a smile as wide as the horizon and eyes that twinkled with endless kindness. And there, the moon wrapped the child in a blanket woven from the softest light, whispering in a voice like velvet that they were brave and kind and endlessly loved. And the child, feeling more at home than they ever had, nestled close against the moon's chest, listening to the slow, steady beat of an ancient heart that had watched over the world since the beginning of time. And while the child slept in the arms of the sky, the moon continued its song, reaching into every corner of the night, finding every soul that needed a little more light, a little more hope, and giving it freely, asking nothing in return. And so the night wore on, a soft symphony of dreams and comfort, until the first gentle blush of dawn began to paint the edges of the world in tender pinks and golds, and the moon, tired but content, let its song drift into a whisper, then into a hum, and finally into a silence so full of love that it lingered in the air long after the last note had faded, leaving every creature, every tree, every river and mountain wrapped in the memory of the most beautiful lullaby the world had ever known. And though the moon slipped quietly down toward the horizon, making way for the sun's bright laughter, its song remained in the hearts of all who had heard it, a soft, eternal reminder that no matter how dark the night might sometimes seem, there was always a song waiting to be sung, a comfort waiting to be given, and a great, gentle love floating just above the world, humming quietly, waiting for the moment when the night would need another lullaby. High above the rolling hills and sunlit valleys, where the sky stretched wide like an ocean of soft blue silk, there drifted a little cloud named Nimbus, who was smaller and fluffier than his siblings but carried within his cottony wisps a heart full of wonder and a deep yearning to explore. So one gentle dawn, as the morning breeze began its sleepy song and the dew still glimmered on the grass below, Nimbus decided to leave his cozy cluster behind and set out on a grand adventure across the heavens. He floated past soaring eagles that wheeled through the sky with majestic grace, tipping tiny drops of morning mist over their wings, and he passed regal mountain peaks dusted with snow, their craggy faces bathed in rose-gold light, and in that moment he felt his spirits rise with the warmth of the rising sun, believing that anything was possible for a small cloud with big dreams. As Nimbus drifted farther, he found himself above a wide, shimmering lake that mirrored the sky so perfectly it looked like a portal into another world. And there he paused to watch fish leap in joyful arcs and feathery waterfowl paddle in perfect lines, creating ripples that danced like liquid glass. Enchanted by the mirrored sky, he released a tiny puff of mist that drifted down to tickle the water's surface, making it giggle and whisper back in rippling laughter that warmed Nimbus's fluffy heart. On he wandered, following the playful currents of a gentle wind that carried the scent of wildflowers and distant pine forests, until he spotted a rainbow arcing gracefully across the sky, its vibrant hues painting a colorful bridge between two faraway hills. With a joyful whoosh, Nimbus floated onto the rainbow's radiant curve, letting its sparkling light filter through his wisps and transform him into a prismatic marvel, shimmering with every color of hope and promise. And as he glided along the arc, he felt for the first time that he belonged to something grander than himself, a fleeting, magical moment where sky, light, and cloud danced together in a celebration of beauty. But as the sun climbed higher and the rainbow began to fade, Nimbus felt a gentle tug of weariness in his soft edges. He realized that even the grandest adventures bring tiredness, and a warm longing for rest stirred within him. He drifted past a sleepy forest below where the trees stretched their limbs, yawning and rustling their leaves in the midday haze, and he sprinkled a few drops of cooling rain down upon them, watching their leaves glisten and their branches sigh in refreshed gratitude, and as he did so, he felt a peaceful calm settle over him, as though the simple act of kindness had soothed his own heart as well. Eager to find a place to rest, Nimbus followed a lazy breeze toward the horizon, where the sky turned a gentle lavender as twilight approached. He passed a flock of migrating geese flying south in perfect formation, their honks soft and mellow in the fading light, and he felt a pang of friendship for these travelers who, like him, moved with purpose through the sky. Below them lay a small orchard of fruit trees, their branches heavy with glowing apples that caught the last rays of the sun. As the breeze carried the scent of ripe fruit upward, Nimbus drifted over the orchard and let a fine drizzle fall, polishing each apple until they gleamed like little lanterns, and the orchard replied with a chorus of shy blossoms opening in gratitude, sending a perfume so sweet that Nimbus felt his tiredness ebb away, knowing that rest was never far when one gave comfort in return. As the sky deepened into shades of deep indigo and the first stars began to wink awake, Nimbus journeyed to a tranquil lagoon nestled in a valley below, its waters so still they reflected the cosmos like a sheet of glass. The moon, pearly and serene, hovered above, and Nimbus felt its gentle glow embrace him. He spread his fluffy form wide, letting the moonlight filter through his mist until he was aglow with silver light, and then, feeling his edges grow heavier, he whispered a soft lullaby back to the moon, a song composed of all the wonders he had seen, from dancing fish and prismatic rainbows to grateful trees and weary geese, and as he sang, the night wrapped him gently in a blanket of peace that rustled softly like a lullaby of its own. In that perfect hush, Nimbus closed his wispy eyes, drifting lower until he nestled into a hollow formed by a ring of evergreen treetops, which cradled him like a soft nest. From there, he could hear the crickets chirp in steady rhythm, the owls hoot in sleepy cadence, and the wind sigh through the pines in a tender, harmonious chorus. Here, in the cradle of the forest's embrace and beneath the watchful gaze of 1,000 twinkling stars, Nimbus finally gave in to his weariness. He folded himself into a cozy ball, his edges curling inward, and as he drifted into dream, he imagined himself forever on this journey of kindness and discovery, knowing that every drop of rain he shared, every moment of beauty he witnessed, and every whispered lullaby he sang would echo in the world below, comforting hearts and bringing peaceful dreams to all who looked up at the sky. And so, the little cloud's sleepy adventure ended not in a place but a feeling, a warm, gentle peace that he carried within him, ready to rise again with the dawn, refreshed and eager for the next journey across the wide, wondrous sky. High in the hush of night, when the moon cast a silver veil over every leaf and blade of grass, the ancient forest stirred with quiet life, its towering trees swaying gently as though cradled by a breeze of pure dreams, and in that sacred hush, the forest itself began to dream, weaving a tapestry of whispered stories and soft mysteries that drifted between the trunks like silken threads. At the edge of a winding path, a lone oak unfurled memories of sunlit mornings and laughter ringing through. Its branches, dreaming of tender hands carving heart shapes into its bark and children dancing barefoot among its roots, while farther along, a cluster of birches dreamed of secret gatherings with playful rabbits and shy fox kits, their white trunks shimmering in the moonlight as if winking back at the stars. and the slender pines above imagine themselves as great sentinels standing guard over sleeping deer and hedgehogs cuddled beneath the ferns. Between the trees, luminous mushrooms glowed softly in rings like tiny lanterns illuminating a fairy's dance floor, and they dreamed of hosting moonbeam revelries where every gossamer-winged creature pirouetted in silence to the heartbeat of the earth. Scattered fireflies floated through the gloom, blinking in rhythmic pulses, dreaming of painting the darkness with hundreds of tiny suns, while the carpet of fallen leaves dreamt of rustling lullabies that would lead every slumbering forest dweller into a deeper, more enchanted rest. The soft burble of a hidden stream wove through the dreamscape, its waters murmuring lullabies of distant mountains and far-off rainstorms, dreaming of journeys to oceans where it would join vast rivers and become part of something grand, while along its banks the wildflowers dreamed of morning dew kissing their petals and the gentle footsteps of wandering souls pausing to admire their beauty. Even the mosses, those emerald blankets clinging to stones and roots, dreamed of dancing in sunshine, of holding drops of dew like glistening jewels and warming under the gaze of a friendly bird. High above, the canopy dreamed of starlight turning each leaf into a tiny mirror, reflecting constellations in a living, breathing tapestry that would guide lost travelers home. The ancient stones scattered throughout the forest floor dreamed of centuries yet to come, of hands carving runes of hope and of visitors sharing secrets beside their silent forms. Burrowed beneath the roots, the moles dreamed of soft soil and hidden treasure troves of earthworms glistening like pearls. An old fox curled in his den dreamed of twilight hunts and the thrill of the chase, of coat brushed by moonlight and the proud joy of return to a safe, hidden hollow. In the treetops, the owls dreamed of silent wings gliding through the star-speckled sky, of wisdom carried across centuries and whispered to every corner of the woods. Even the spiders in their dewy webs dreamed of spinning golden threads that caught the moon's glow and wove dreams into every corner. Among the branches, sleeping birds dreamed of dawn's first song and the warm refuge of nests lined with soft down. The breeze itself, dancing through the lattice of limbs, dreamed of stories gathered from every leaf and flower it had ever touched and carried them softly into the night, ensuring every dreamer in the forest felt heard. As these countless dreams intertwined, the forest became a realm of shimmering possibility, where each creature, plant, and stone found its yearning echoed in another's dream, creating a symphony of gentle hope and deep belonging. At the forest's heart stood an ancient cedar whose limbs reached skyward like outstretched arms. That cedar dreamed the grandest dream of all, to one day cradle the moon itself in its branches and whisper secrets of the cosmos into its luminous ear. Beneath that cedar, hidden among the roots, a small clearing lay dappled with moonbeams, and there, every night, the dreams gathered as soft echoes and danced in the air, weaving a lullaby so tender that it carried beyond the forest's edge into the world of sleeping villages and cities, filling human hearts with a peaceful calm they could not quite name. Parents found their children drifting off with smiles on their lips as if visited by an unseen friend. Lovers dreaming under distant windows felt the night's embrace in their sleep and awoke with memories of moonlit promises. Even weary travelers on dusty roads felt their worries lighten at dawn as though carried away by a silent, celestial breeze. And so, the forest's dreams reached into every corner of the world, whispering comfort through window panes and beneath eyelids, knitting human hearts into the grand tapestry of life it held dear. When dawn's first rosy fingers brushed the horizon, the forest's dreams folded gently like petals closing at sunrise, each memory retreating into leaf, bark, and stone, carrying the promise of renewal until the next night's hush. The ancient oak remembered every laugh and vowed to ring its boughs in joyous greeting. The birches stored visions of dancing kits, awaiting twilight. The fireflies found rest in hidden chambers, ready to blink new art across the next night's darkness. The stream glided onward, its lullaby becoming a whispered legend among distant valleys. Every creature, from fox to mole, awoke fresh with the echo of dreams still warm. The forest, in its waking hush, felt a deep satisfaction. It had fulfilled its purpose of nurturing wonder, weaving dreams, and sharing unspoken comfort with every living soul. And as the sun climbed higher, turning dew to dancing prisms of light, the forest smiled in silent contentment, knowing that tonight, when the world grew still again, it would once more dream its gentle dreams and sing its soft lullaby to every heart that listened beneath the silent, star-filled sky. Far beyond the bustling towns and winding roads, nestled between rolling emerald hills and ancient groves of willow and oak, there flowed a gentle river whose waters sang a soft, comforting melody that drifted on the night air like a tender lullaby. And every evening as twilight draped its indigo cloak across the sky, creatures great and small would pause to listen, for the murmuring song promised rest and whispered of peaceful dreams. At the river's edge, fireflies danced in lazy spirals, their tiny lights flickering in time with the water's hush, while frogs crooned low harmonies that blended seamlessly into the current's quiet flow, creating a natural symphony that lulled the world to sleep. And in a clearing fringed by reeds and forget-me-nots, a family of deer would settle, their limbs folding gently as they rested on velvety grass, lulled by the lapping of silver waves as they painted soft reflections of the moon on the water's surface. And even the wind, which usually raced through the trees with boisterous sighs, slowed to a whisper, carrying the river's song deep into the forest where owls narrowed their eyes in contentment and the fox paused in its den to let the melody ease the worries of the day. Farther downstream, past clusters of smooth stones polished by centuries of whispering currents, the river wound through a quiet village where wooden cottages huddled beneath sloping roofs, and lamps glowed softly in windows while families gathered for their evening rest, listening as the gentle murmur of the river reached them even through closed shutters, promising sweet slumber. And in one small window, a child pressed a hand against the cool pane, eyes heavy with dream-starved longing. And as the river's song threaded its way into the child's bedroom, it wove images of floating leaf boats drifting across moonlit pools and of graceful swans gliding through misty dawn, filling the child's mind with scenes of tranquil beauty until eyelids fluttered shut and dreams of rippling waters and dancing lights carried them into deep, peaceful sleep. Downstream still, where the banks curved beneath ancient trees whose branches leaned over the water like protective arms, lovers walked hand in hand beneath the soft glow of lanterns, pausing to drink in the sweet notes of the river's song. And as the current lilted and swayed, it wrapped each heart in a tender embrace, washing away the bustle of the day and replacing it with a serene sense of unity, a reminder that, like the river's flow, love need not rush but can move softly and endlessly toward tomorrow. And under the shadow of a centuries-old stone bridge, where mossy stones glistened with dew, an old traveler, worn by roads and seasons, sat on a cool slab of rock, dipping toes into the water and closing eyes to drift on the current's gentle cadence, remembering childhood days when he, too, had listened to this same lullaby, and now, weathered though he was, the river's voice cradled him, carrying him back to simpler times until he felt young again, buoyed by the soft murmur that seemed to cradle his very soul. Upstream, small fish darted through the clear depths, their scales glinting like scattered stardust, and as they nudged each other playfully, they too felt the pull of the waterfall's hush, a hidden cascade that tumbled over smooth boulders into a secret cove, where even the rocky walls hummed with the water's hymn and bats paused in their flight to rest on cool stones and listen. And in that sacred hollow the river's song felt most profound, echoing with ancient wisdom as though the water itself remembered every life it had touched, from seeds nested in its banks to travelers carried on its gentle waves, and carried those memories downstream as a soft gift to whoever might need comfort tonight. Along the grassy banks, willows leaned in to drink from the river's kindness, their long tendrils brushing the water with feather-like caresses, and each brush sparked a gentle ripple, a little echo of the river's memory that shimmered in the moonlight before fading back into the flow. And when dawn's first pale fingers painted the sky in shades of rose and gold, the river's lullaby softened to a whispering farewell as birds stirred in the trees, stretching wings in the new light and lifting their voices in a chorus of greeting, yet the memory of the night's murmur lingered in their song, weaving the river's calm into the bright promise of the day. Even after the sun climbed high and the world awoke to its busy rhythms, the river's gentle song remained etched in the hearts of all who had listened. The child who awoke with a smile and dreams dancing behind closed eyes, the lovers whose hands remained entwined as they walked away from the bridge, the weary traveler who rose with renewed hope, and the forest itself, which carried the echo of that soft melody in every rustling leaf and every sigh of wind. And though the river wound on through fields and towns, gathering strength from each soul it soothed, its murmur never lost its tender quality. It continued to sing its soft, timeless lullaby each night, cradling the earth in its gentle embrace, reminding the world that even amid the greatest noise, there exists a quiet current of peace waiting to carry every heart into the sweetest of dreams. In the heart of a vast, moonlit forest, where towering trees whispered ancient secrets and the night air was cool and still, there sat a small owl perched high on a thick branch of an old oak tree. His feathers were soft and silvery, and his large, round eyes gleamed with a gentle, thoughtful light as he surveyed the peaceful world around him. The owl had lived in this forest for as long as he could remember, and the rhythm of the forest, the rustling leaves, the occasional croak of a frog, the distant howling of a wolf, had become a comforting lullaby to him. Yet, there was something about the quiet of the midnight hour that made the owl feel particularly sleepy, and tonight, he felt especially weary, his eyelids heavy and his body longing for rest. But despite his desire to sleep, he could not help but feel the pull of something deeper, a quiet, unspoken need to share a story. The owl often told stories to the other creatures of the forest, stories of the stars and the moon, tales of faraway lands, and of ancient times when the trees could speak and the winds would sing. These stories were always filled with wonder and magic, tales that soothed the souls of those who listened. However, on this particular night, the owl felt that there was a story within him that had never been told, one that had been waiting in his heart for the right moment to be shared. And so, as the cool breeze fluttered the leaves around him, the owl stretched his wings and prepared to speak, his voice soft but clear, carrying across the stillness of the forest like a gentle breeze. "Let me tell you," the owl began, his voice barely more than a whisper, "of a time long ago, when the moon herself was lost in the sky, adrift in a sea of stars with no way to find her home." He paused, blinking his eyes slowly as if gathering the words carefully. It was a time when the stars were new, and the moon, just a young and curious celestial being, had wandered far from her place in the heavens. She had drifted too far, lost in the beauty of the stars and the mysteries of the cosmos, and now, she found herself all alone in the vast, endless sky, surrounded only by twinkling lights and an overwhelming sense of emptiness. The owl's voice was soft and soothing, like the breeze rustling through the leaves, and the creatures of the forest began to gather around him, drawn by the gentle magic of his tale. The rabbits, the deer, even the sleepy fox, all paused to listen as the owl continued. The moon, in her loneliness, began to weep. Her tears fell from the sky, sparkling like tiny silver droplets, and they scattered across the world below. The stars, distant and cold, watched her from afar but could do nothing to comfort her. The night grew darker and quieter as the moon's sadness deepened, and it seemed as though she might never find her way back home. The owl paused again, his eyes glimmering in the soft light of the moon as if he too was lost in the story. His audience of creatures remained still, hanging on every word. But then, the owl continued, his voice lifting with a sense of wonder, something remarkable happened. From the shadows of the forest, a small creature emerged, a little firefly, its glow faint and flickering. The firefly, though tiny and fragile, was not afraid of the dark. It hovered near the moon and, with a soft and gentle light, began to guide her home. It was not a brilliant glow, not a blazing light, but just enough to show her the way. And as the firefly flitted from one star to the next, the moon began to follow, her path becoming clearer with each flicker of the tiny light. The owl paused, letting the words sink in, as if he too was marveling at the power of the little firefly. The creatures around him sat in rapt attention, their eyes wide with wonder, and the owl continued, his voice now rich with the magic of the tale. Together, the moon and the firefly journeyed across the sky, through the clouds and past the constellations. The moon, once lost and alone, was now filled with hope, and the firefly, though small, became a beacon of light in the darkness. They traveled on, side by side, until at last, they reached the edge of the sky, where the moon could find her rightful place once more. The owl's eyes glistened as he spoke of the reunion between the moon and her home in the heavens. The stars shimmered with newfound brilliance, their light no longer distant but warm and inviting, and the moon, once again, took her place among them, glowing softly as she had always done. The owl smiled as he finished his tale, his voice softening into a gentle whisper. And so, the moon learned that no matter how far she may wander, there is always a way home, and even the smallest of lights can guide you when you are lost. Just like the firefly, each of us has the power to bring light to the darkness, to help others find their way when they are lost, and to remind them that they are never truly alone. As the owl finished his tale, the forest seemed to exhale a collective sigh, as if the story had touched the hearts of all who listened. The creatures, lulled by the soothing rhythm of the owl's voice and the beauty of the tale, began to yawn and stretch, their eyes growing heavy with sleep. The wind whispered through the trees, and the leaves rustled softly, as if to say that the time had come for all to rest. One by one, the animals of the forest settled down, curling up beneath the protective branches of the trees, their bodies growing warm as they drifted into dreams. The owl, too, felt the tug of sleep on his eyelids, and with a final glance at the quiet, peaceful world around him, he tucked his head beneath his wing and closed his eyes, his heart full of contentment. He had shared his story, and now it was time to rest, to dream of the moon and the firefly, of stars and gentle lights, and to remember that, like the firefly, he too had the power to guide others through the darkness, no matter how small or fragile he might seem. And so, beneath the soft, silvery glow of the moon, the owl fell asleep, and the forest settled into a peaceful slumber, the air filled with the soft murmur of dreams, as the night continued its gentle march toward morning, with the promise of another story to be told when the next midnight came. In the stillness of a quiet, moonlit night, where the air was crisp and the world seemed to be holding its breath, a single star twinkled brightly in the vast, endless sky. This was no ordinary star. It was a star with a mission. From the moment it had been born in the depths of the universe, this star had known that its purpose was not to simply shine. No, this star had a greater task, one that would touch the hearts of every living creature below. The star's mission was to sprinkle dreams across the sky, to carry hope and warmth to all who looked up and found solace in its light. For eons, the star had watched over the earth from its place in the heavens, witnessing the ebb and flow of life below. It saw people laughing and crying, the passing of seasons, the quiet moments of joy, and the moments of sorrow. But above all, the star saw how the night could bring rest and peace to weary souls. It saw the way the darkened sky seemed to cradle the world, how the stars themselves scattered across the sky like little sparks of light, guiding dreams and protecting the dreamers beneath. Tonight, the star was especially bright, its light pulsing gently as it gathered the power it would need to complete its task. The world below was quiet, the creatures of the earth all nestled in their cozy homes or sleeping peacefully beneath the trees. Yet, the star knew that this night, as all nights before it, was special. It was a night for dreams. As the hours passed, the star began its work. It started slowly, its brilliant light dimming and flickering as it released tiny fragments of magic into the atmosphere. These fragments, like stardust, drifted through the air, silently spreading across the sky. Each piece of stardust carried with it a dream, a wish, a thought that had been whispered in the quiet of the night. Some dreams were small, like the wish of a child hoping for a new toy or the desire of a lover to be close to their partner. Others were larger, dreams of adventure, of faraway lands, or of a better world where everyone could live in harmony. The star sprinkled these dreams with care, knowing that each dream it sent out into the world would find its way to the right person. It didn't matter who they were or where they lived, whether they were a child in a small village, an elderly person in a bustling city, or a traveler lost in the woods. Each dream would find its place, wrapped in the warmth of the star's light. As the stardust danced through the night sky, it gently touched the minds of those below. In a sleepy village nestled among rolling hills, a young girl lay in her bed, her eyes closed as she drifted into slumber. She had always dreamed of becoming a great artist, of painting beautiful landscapes and capturing the world's beauty with every stroke of her brush. Tonight, as the star's stardust touched her, her dream grew stronger. She could see the colors in her mind, the bright hues of the sunset, the soft blues of the sky, and the golden glow of the morning sun. Far away, in a bustling city, an old man sat in a small apartment, alone in his thoughts. He had lived a long life, but there were many things he still wished for. A chance to reconnect with the family he had lost touch with, a moment of peace after years of hard work. As the stardust touched his mind, his heart filled with warmth, and for the first time in many years, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, his dreams were not out of reach. He could feel the possibilities unfolding before him, the hope rising like a beacon in the darkness. Elsewhere, a young couple lay side by side, their hands intertwined, their hearts beating in unison. They had just begun their journey together, and although they had big dreams for their future, they were unsure of what lay ahead. As the stardust floated through their window, they both fell into a peaceful sleep, and in their dreams, they saw a vision of their future, a home filled with love, laughter, and children. They saw themselves traveling the world, exploring new places, and building a life together full of shared experiences. The star continued to sprinkle its magic across the sky, each little fragment of stardust carrying the dreams of countless souls. In a faraway forest, a wolf pup slept under the sheltering branches of a tree, the soft winds of the night brushing against its fur. The pup dreamed of running free through open fields, of chasing the wind and feeling the earth beneath its paws. In the quiet of the night, the star's light gently wrapped itself around the pup, filling its dreams with the promise of adventures yet to come. The night grew deeper, the sky darker, but the star's work was not yet done. As the last traces of stardust fell from its glowing form, it paused, looking over the world below. The dreams were scattered, reaching those who needed them most. And as the star continued to shine, it knew that it had fulfilled its purpose. The people of the earth would sleep peacefully tonight, their hearts filled with the warmth of their dreams, guided by the star's soft, gentle light. As the night wore on and the first light of dawn began to peek over the horizon, the star began to fade, its light softening as it slowly disappeared from view. The world below stirred as morning came, but the dreams from the night before lingered in the hearts of those who had been touched by them. The young artist awoke with a spark of inspiration, ready to begin her journey. The old man, now filled with hope, reached out to reconnect with his family. The couple awoke with a sense of peace, ready to face whatever the future held for them. And the wolf pup, waking from its dream of freedom, knew that the adventures it had longed for would one day come to pass. And so, as the star's light faded, the world below continued to turn, each day bringing new opportunities, new dreams to chase. But the star would always be there, somewhere high above, ready to sprinkle its dreams across the sky once more, bringing hope, warmth, and the promise of a bright future to all who looked up and remembered. In a gentle village wrapped in golden fields and nestled between sleepy hills, where time seemed to slow with each setting sun and every evening was kissed by the softest light, there lived a little boy named Eli who loved to sit by his window just as the sky began to turn from blue to soft shades of lavender and peach, and while the rest of the village settled down for the night, candles flickering, kettles singing, and lullabies humming through open windows, Eli would press his chin to the wooden windowsill, close his eyes, and wait, because he believed that somewhere in the quiet hush of twilight, a special breeze would come, a breeze that wasn't like any ordinary wind but one that carried sweet wishes made by hearts around the world. And it wasn't just something he imagined, for long ago his grandmother had told him stories of this magical breeze that floated silently through the valleys, glided over rooftops, and brushed against cheeks like the softest whisper, collecting gentle hopes and kind thoughts from dreamers everywhere, wishes made not with words, but with feelings, a child's wish for comfort, a parent's hope for peace, or an elder's dream of happier days. And every night, just after the sun dipped below the hills, Eli would close his eyes and release his own wish into the air, hoping the breeze would find it, carry it across the sky, and sprinkle it over someone who needed it more. And tonight, as the stars began to twinkle and the world quieted to a soft hush, Eli opened his heart once more and silently wished for someone, somewhere, to feel safe, to feel loved, to know that even in the dark, gentle thoughts reached them like soft feathers falling from the sky. And as he did, the air around him shifted ever so slightly, like a sigh from the earth itself, and he smiled because he knew the breeze was coming. And far away, from the edge of a silver lake beneath the moon's tender glow, the breeze began its journey, carrying with it the hopes of a lonely girl in the city who had wished for a friend, the tender thought of a grandmother in the mountains who hoped her grandsons slept well, and even the quiet longing of a cat curled up on a porch, dreaming of warmth and companionship. And as the breeze traveled, It passed over forests where trees bent slightly in greeting, through meadows where fireflies blinked in soft harmony, and over rooftops where wind chimes sang their gentle songs. And when it reached Eli's window, it wrapped around him like an invisible blanket, cool but warm in its meaning, carrying the scent of distant flowers and the hush of lullabies sung far away. And, though he had already given his wish, the breeze left behind a quiet message, not in words, but in the feeling of being held by the world, of knowing he mattered, of being part of something bigger and more beautiful than he could see. And in that moment, Eli felt sleep tiptoe into his bones, his eyes growing heavier as his thoughts melted into dreams filled with drifting clouds, golden meadows, and stars that blinked in rhythm with his heartbeat. And outside, the breeze continued its journey, swirling through curtains and across pillows, brushing the foreheads of sleepers and whispering dreams into their ears, carrying the sweetness of wishes from one soul to another, connecting hearts in silence and peace, until at last, the village was completely still, cradled by the night and blanketed by a sky full of gentle stars. And in that hush, the breeze became the quiet guardian of dreams, circling the earth with soft purpose, promising that no one was ever truly alone, and that every kind thought, no matter how small, would always find a way to reach someone who needed it, just like a breeze that carried sweet wishes. Deep within a quiet valley where the sun set gently over silver-tipped hills and the wind carried only the softest of sighs, there was a hidden place untouched by time, a sleeping garden filled with magic flowers that only bloomed under the blanket of night, and no maps could lead to it, no footsteps could trace away, for the garden revealed itself only to those with hearts full of wonder and eyes that dreamed while still awake. And on one particularly still evening, as the stars began to shimmer and the moon rose slow and golden, a little girl named Lila wandered through a forest path led only by the quiet humming of something ancient and beautiful. And though she didn't know where she was going, she followed a trail of soft lights like tiny fireflies that led her through mossy trees and under arches of glowing leaves until suddenly the woods opened and before her stretched a valley glowing with color. Not like anything from the day but painted in soft hues of moonlight blues, dreamlike purples, and glowing silver. And at the very center of it all was the sleeping garden, where thousands of flowers lay closed in silence as though waiting for the stars themselves to call them awake. And the moment Lila stepped forward, the air shifted, gentle music like the whisper of petals and the hum of lullabies began to float around her. And one by one, the flowers began to open, not quickly, not loudly, but in the gentlest way, like eyes fluttering open from a peaceful sleep. And as each one bloomed, it released a soft glow that filled the air with warmth and calm. And in this enchanted place, the flowers didn't just grow, they dreamed, and their dreams spilled into the sky like glowing threads of light that wrapped around the stars, making them twinkle with more tenderness than ever before. And Lila wandered slowly through the garden, her bare feet brushing the cool grass as the flowers turned to her, not with faces but with feelings, offering her dreams to touch, to carry, to breathe in. And with every step, she felt sleepier, not because she was tired, but because the garden was singing to her in a language of peace and comfort that wrapped her like a blanket. And in the middle of the garden stood a tall tree with silver leaves that rustled without wind, and beneath it was a circle of the oldest flowers, their petals shimmering with stories, for they held the dreams of the world, soft hopes from children, secret wishes from grown-ups, forgotten songs from long ago. And when Lila sat among them, they bloomed even wider, showering her with glows that tickled her skin and filled her heart with a feeling she had never known before, the pure magic of being completely safe, completely loved, and completely at peace. And she closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to listen, and she heard the dreams of others floating through the flowers, dreams of flying over clouds, of dancing with stars, of hugging someone missed for too long. And as she sat still, the flowers continued to sing their silent lullabies, and even the moon leaned closer to listen. And though time moved differently in the garden, it didn't stop. It simply softened, slowed, like a heartbeat resting, and eventually, when the stars began to fade and the morning light touched the edge of the valley, the flowers slowly began to close, one by one, curling gently back into sleep, and Lila, with her heart now glowing and eyes filled with dreams she never knew she had, stood slowly and whispered a thank you to the garden, and though it said nothing, it glowed once, brightly as if smiling, and then the path that had led her here reappeared, the little lights dancing once again to guide her home, and she followed, quieter now, not from sadness but from a peace that would stay with her always. And as she reached her cozy bed and slipped under her covers, the final bit of moonlight touched her cheek, and she drifted off, carrying the gentle dream of the sleeping garden of magic. Flowers, where all the dreams of the world bloomed softly and waited quietly for hearts like hers to come and remember them. On a quiet night when the clouds gathered gently like sleepy guardians above the earth, the rain began to fall, not in a storm, not in a rush, but in soft, rhythmic whispers, as if the sky itself were tucking the world into bed. And down below, in a small cottage nestled between rolling meadows and old whispering trees, a child named Era lay beneath a warm quilt with her eyes wide open, not from fear or worry, but from wonder, listening to the sound of each raindrop tapping on her window like tiny storytellers waiting to be heard. And as the gentle drizzle turned into a delicate symphony, something magical stirred in the air, for this was not an ordinary night, and these were not ordinary raindrops. They were the storytellers of the clouds, each one carrying a tale from the sky, and as they fell, they began to speak, not with voices but with sounds that shaped pictures in the mind, painting soft, glowing images in Era's thoughts as her eyes slowly fluttered shut. And the first raindrop spoke of a lonely cloud who dreamed of dancing with the moon and finally found its way to the stars after years of drifting, and the next told of a tiny seed deep in the soil that wished it could grow tall enough to touch the sky. And how the rains came year after year, nurturing it until it bloomed into the tallest tree in the meadow, its branches now a home for sleepy birds and dreaming squirrels. And the raindrops continued, one after another, each with a story of quiet wonder, about a caterpillar who feared the dark cocoon but woke as a butterfly under a night sky filled with stars that had waited just for her, about a lantern lost at sea that floated for years, bringing light to drifting dreamers before finding its way home on a tide of soft moonlight. And Era lay still, feeling the rhythm of each drop against the roof and windows, like a lullaby from the heavens. And in her mind, she saw a village where children built boats out of fallen leaves and sailed them across puddles that led to oceans in their dreams, and a mountain that sighed every evening, telling stories of the sun's warmth and the snow's soft silence, and a little fox who followed a trail of glowing mushrooms deep into a forest where time paused and dreams gathered in bubbles of light, and each drop that landed carried a tiny shimmer, as if the stars themselves had melted into rain, and their tails floated into the room, settling gently on Era's cheeks, her pillow, her breath, wrapping her in warmth not made from blankets but from quiet truths, that even the smallest sound can hold a universe, even the gentlest rain can carry love, and even in darkness, stories can bloom like petals made of light. And soon Era felt her heartbeat slowing to match the tempo of the rain, and the window panes glowed faintly as if reflecting the dreams within her. And outside, the world slept too, the trees swaying slightly in time with the sky's stories, the river humming low beneath its breath, and every flower curling tighter as if holding on to their favorite parts of the tale. And in that sacred silence between each raindrop's tale, Era drifted deeper into a realm of dreaming clouds, twinkling lakes, and skies that hummed, and, somewhere far above, the clouds smiled gently, pleased that someone had listened, truly listened, to the bedtime stories of the rain. In a quiet corner of a time-worn cottage that stood at the edge of a sleepy village, there rested a little lamp upon a sturdy oak side table, its brass base polished smooth by generations of caring hands, the gentle curves of its stem etched with tiny floral patterns that told stories of days long past, and its glass shade tinted a soft amber hue, glowing warmly even when unlit, as though it held the memory of every flicker of flame it had ever cast across the room. For decades, the lamp had burned each evening at dusk, first ignited by a kindly old woman who raised her grandchildren beneath its tender radiance, and every night, without fail, it had chased away shadows and soothed restless hearts, illuminating the dog-eared pages of bedtime tales, casting gentle pools of light upon the worn wooden floorboards, and bathing the faces of young dreamers in a golden glow that whispered, "You are safe, you are loved, here in this moment." And though time marched on and the laughter in the room softened into a gentle hush, the lamp remained, a steadfast companion to all who sought comfort when night fell. It had witnessed the first crawl of toddling children, their excitement at the moon's silver arc winking through the window, and the soft sigh of teenagers leaning over schoolbooks, hoping the lamp's soft glow might inspire courage for tomorrow, and later had watched as young adults slipped away into the world beyond the cottage door, their shoes clicking on the front steps, leaving stories behind that the lamp carried in its memory like precious jewels, glimmering ever so faintly whenever its wick caught flame. Seasons brushed the cottage with gentle changes, spring's bursts of emerald leaves that crept across the window pane, summer's evenings alive with cicadas' gentle chorus drifting inside, autumn's golden leaves swirling on the breeze that rattled the window, and winter's hush of falling snow lying like a gleaming blanket upon the world. Yet through it all, the little lamp glowed on. Its light had comforted a new mother's tear-streaked cheeks sleepless with a newborn's cries, had brightened the hands of a baker kneading dough into brioche in the modest kitchen just next door, had guided a lonely poet's pen as he scratched hopeful lines of verse into tattered notebooks, and had warmed the hands of an aging carpenter carving toys for children long grown up. Even the cat, a soft gray tabby with eyes like polished amber, would curl beside the lamp on frigid nights, purring in contentment as the lamp's gentle heat crowned the hearth. But now, the cottage wore its years upon its beams. The kindly old woman, wrapped in wool shawls, sat in her high-backed chair by the fire, her hair white as the winter snows outside, her breath deeper and slower. She no longer told stories aloud. Her voice had softened to a whisper, drifting through the cottage like a soft wind. One evening as she reached her hand toward the lamp's brass knob to light its wick, her fingers trembled, and the flame caught, dancing to life in a single golden blossom. In that moment, the lamp did not merely glow. It awakened all its memories at once, sending waves of warmth through the room as though gathering every heartbeat it had ever touched, every tear it had ever soothed, every smile it had ever witnessed, into one final, brilliant pulse of light. It lit the old woman's gentle face, tracing every line of love etched into her skin, and as the flame flickered softly, it whispered back in the silent language of countless nights, "I have been here, and I have carried your love." Outside, the wind held its breath, and even the restless shadows trembled at the lamp's gentle power. Across the threshold, down the creaky hallway, the old woman called to her grandchildren, now grown and with children of their own. "Come close, "Come close," she whispered, her voice barely rising above the hush, and one by one, they gathered in the lamp's circle of light, eyes the color of softened dusk, hands folded in their laps as if holding something precious, and around them, the cottage walls seemed to lean in, listening. The lamp's flame shone steady and true, washing every face in its golden glow. Even the children held their breath, as though the lamp's warmth carried the promise of 1,000 lullabies. Then, as if summoned by some gentle command, the lamp's flame glowed brighter still, a single brilliant note of light that bloomed into radiance so warm it felt like a hug, filling every heart with unspeakable comfort. And in that moment, the lamp felt its purpose fulfilled. It had been more than an object. It had been a guardian of dreams, a keeper of memories, a tender companion in lonely nights, and now, at the close of its long vigil, it offered one final gift, its last luminescent embrace. As the flame steadied, it began to fade, not with the coldness of fear, but with the grace of a heartfelt goodbye. The lamp's little glow softened to a whisper, and then to a soft sigh, until it was nothing more than a flicker. Yet even in that faint pulse, the room felt full, vibrant with the echoes of all that had been shared beneath its light. The old woman, her eyes glistening, reached out and brushed her palm across the lamp's cool brass base, murmuring thanks for every moment it had illuminated, and as she laid her hands over the empty space where the flame once danced, she felt a warm truth settle into her bones. Love remains after light is gone. Slowly, she rose, gathering her grandchildren close, and in the silence that followed, they held one another, their hearts glowing from the lamp's final gift of peace. Outside, the moon ascended to its place high in the sky, its silver beams slipping through the window, painting the walls in soft light, and for a moment, the cottage did not seem old or fragile, but alive with the gentle energy of memories that would never fade. In the days that followed, the lamp remained unlit, its wick spent, its glass shade reflecting the dawn. Yet its presence lingered like a promise. The cottage felt warmer, somehow, as though the lamp's spirit had seeped into every corner, in the curves of the window frames, in the grain of the oak boards, and in the hush that embraced each visitor. The grandchildren, now guardians of the lamp's memory, retold its story to their own children, passing along the tale of a little lamp whose light had never been grand, but had always been enough to carry love through the darkest nights. They spoke of how the lamp's final glow had been a symphony of golden peace, a reminder that the simplest lights can outshine the grandest brilliance when fueled by the warmth of caring hearts. And on nights when the wind gently rocked the swaying pines and the village lights blinked on one by one, the people would pause and think of the little lamp's last gift, letting its memory wrap around them like a blanket, knowing that even when flames flicker out, the warmth they leave behind can light lives forever. Thus, in the quiet heart of that old cottage, beneath skies still scattered with stars, the little lamp's final glow shone on, not in flame but in the tender hearts of all who had known its light, reminding them that love's gentle glow, once shared, never truly fades. Far beyond the edges of the waking world, where moonlight weaves silver threads through the hush of night, there chugged a wondrous dream train whose wheels whispered lullabies against velvet rails, and this train, painted in the softest hues of sunrise and dusk, wound its way through clouds like a gentle serpent of mist and light, calling to the dreamers of earth with the promise of cozy lands where every sigh becomes a song. Children who had long ago outgrown their stuffed bears and grown-ups, whose hearts ached from the weight of unspoken worries, would close their eyes as they drifted to sleep, and the dream train, guided by lanterns that glowed like fireflies and a conductor whose eyes held the warmth of 1,000 kind nights, would appear amidst the star-speckled heavens, steam curling from its brass whistles like gossamer ribbons dancing in a silent breeze, inviting weary souls to board its plush seats of cloud-soft velvet, where pillows bloomed like fragrant blossoms and blankets wove themselves from strands of starlight. As each passenger settled in, the train's gentle motion would rock them in a cradle of comfort, and the carriages, lined with windows of dew-kissed glass, would frame vistas of cotton candy skies and rolling hills stitched with patchwork meadows, all shimmering beneath a quilt of twinkling constellations, and the rhythmic clickety-clack of the dream train's tracks would blend with distant echoes of lullabies once sung by grandmothers beneath lamplit porches, creating a melody so tender that it coaxed the heaviest of eyelids closed, whispering that here, on this magical journey, all fears would soften into dreams. The first carriage, known as the Garden of Whispers, brimmed with flowers that glowed like lanterns at dusk, moonlit roses, silver daisies, and pale lavender blooms that hummed sweet songs when brushed by the breeze of passing clouds. And as the passengers wandered down the aisle, curious constellations drifting above their heads, they could lean out to catch petals that fell like gentle snow, each one carrying a fragment of a dream. Memories of childhood hide and seek among sun-drenched groves. The echo of a beloved lullaby hummed softly at bedtime, or the warmth of a hand held in reassurance. And when tucked beneath a pillow, those petals would unfurl in the dreamscape, weaving scenes of gardens where laughter floated like pollen and every blossom was a promise of joy. In the second carriage, the library of soft stories, infinite shelves curved along the walls, each book bound in velvet and gold, their spines titled with words like Hush of the Forest, Secrets of the Moon, and Songs of Gentle Rain. And passengers could select a tome at random, its pages fluttering open to release gentle swirls of light-shaped letters that danced upon the air, forming stories so soothing that by the time a tale reached its final line, the listener would be drifting into slumber, carried by words that whispered of cozy cottages by quiet streams, of friendly foxes who guided lost travelers through misty twilight, and of starry skies that rained down blessings of peace. Librarians, clad in robes of midnight blue trimmed with soft silver, guided each dreamer to books that held the exact note their heart needed, for the dream train knew every passenger by name and by longing, matching their spirits with stories that felt like a warm hug to the soul. The third carriage glowed with the golden warmth of a hearth, called the Hearth of Shared Dreams, where a grand fireplace roared with embers that flickered in time with the dream train's heartbeats. Armchairs and divans, upholstered in calming shades of russet and cream, encircled the hearth, and here, passengers could exchange the seeds of their dreams by the crackling firelight, presenting to one another fragments of hopes. Like a musician sharing a single tender melody, a poet gifting a line of gentle verse, or a painter offering a sketch of sunrise, and the hearth would absorb these dreams, nurturing them in its glow until they bloomed into collective wonders, warming all present with the knowledge that their dreams, when shared, became cozier and stronger, weaving connections that transcended distance and time. Beyond the hearth carriage lay the cart of stardust delights, where ethereal eatables floated on trays of light, sugar crystals that tasted of first snowfall, moonbeam soufflés that melted on the tongue, and dreamy infusions of nectar that danced like liquid honey across the palate. Each bite carried a swirl of drowsy magic, coaxing sweet smiles and soft yawns, and before long, even the most restless hearts surrendered to the warmth of shared treats, their burdens lifting like morning dew under the rising sun of dreams. But the most enchanting part of the dream train journey awaited in the final carriage, the chamber of cozy lands, where plush hammocks lined the walls and knitted quilts, stitched by invisible hands, draped across nests of silk and velvet. Here, every passenger would find the perfect nook to curl into, as the carriage doors slid open to reveal true marvels, lands of perpetual twilight where fireflies, shaped like lanterns, drifted among flower-laden fields, forests humming with lullabies, and small, gentle villages where windows glowed with friendly lamplight and every doorstep held a teacup filled with comfort. Beneath the twilight sky, friendly beasts, sleepy-eyed deer, gentle foxes with rust-red coats, and owls with velvet feathers, would approach, offering companionship and guiding dreamers to open-air hammocks strung between soft-branched trees. There, as the train slowed to a standstill, the sky would shift to show curtains of aurora dancing in pastel sweeps. And as the passengers lay back, drifting closer to sleep, the gentle swaying of the hammocks would carry them deeper into dreams, each breath in rhythm with the hush of these cozy lands, until the boundary between dream and reality blurred into a single, shimmering thread. As the dream train prepared to return its passengers to their bedsides, the conductor, a kindly figure cloaked in a coat of midnight stitched with stars, would walk the aisle, offering soft smiles and gentle nods, reminding each dreamer to hold tight to the magic they had found. For even upon waking, the warmth of the dream train's journey would linger in their hearts, guiding them through the hours of day with newfound calm and wonder. And when the passengers opened their eyes in their own rooms, the soft whistle of the dream train would fade into the morning's first birdsong, the golden light of dawn brushing the sky. And though the train itself had slipped back into the realm beyond waking, its magic remained. Quilts felt cozier, stories whispered on the breeze, and the promise of return whispered in soft patters of imagination when the night drew close once more. So whenever the world feels too loud, whenever hearts are heavy with the weight of the day, one need only close their eyes at twilight and listen for that distant, soothing whistle, like a lullaby carried on the wind, inviting them aboard the dream train to cozy lands, where every soul is welcomed, every heart is warmed, and every dream is gently cradled until the sun returns to paint the skies anew. High atop the gentle, rolling hills where the tall grasses swayed in a lullaby breeze, there lay a sleepy valley bathed in the silver glow of 1,000 stars, and on a small, weathered bench carved from ancient oak, a child named Mira sat wrapped in a soft, woolen shawl, her gaze lifted reverently toward the heavens where constellations wove across the sky like luminous threads in a timeless tapestry, and each star seemed to pulse with a quiet heartbeat, whispering gentle promises of dreams yet to be dreamed. Below her, the world had settled into a hush so deep that even the rustle of crickets fell soft as a breath, and the sleepy village in the distance glowed with the warm wink of lanterns through shuttered windows, as families drifted into slumber, cradled by their beds and the tender hush of night, while Mira, her small hands clasped around a steaming cup of chamomile tea, felt the weight of the day's worries fall away with every sigh of the breeze, leaving her heart as open as the night sky above. In that serene moment, as the moon, pale and watchful, floated high above the clearest patch of sky, Mira remembered her grandmother's words, "When the hills are wrapped in stars, the universe is tucking you in," and she closed her eyes, letting the memory swirl through her like silvery smoke, conjuring images of the first time she had climbed these hills as a little one, her wide eyes reflecting starbursts overhead, her grandmother's gentle hand guiding hers along the narrow, winding path, telling her of the star blanket that covered the sleeping world and how each twinkle was a blessing carried by light years to kiss the cheeks of every dreamer below. Tonight, with the hills laid bare beneath the celestial quilt, Mira felt a soft warmth blossom in her chest, as if each distant star had sent down a tender hug just for her, and she tilted her face skyward, breathing in the cool, sweet air scented faintly with wild lavender and night-blooming jasmine, feeling as though she could inhale all the dreams the sky had to offer. As she sipped her tea, the steam danced before her eyes like miniature constellations, and she imagined tiny dream ships sailing in the swirling depths of her mug, each one carrying hopes of happy tomorrows, reconciliation for old friends, the courage to speak one's truth, the comfort of knowing one is never truly alone. With every sip, the stars above seemed to twinkle in response, and Mira whispered, "I am listening," allowing the hush of the night to guide her into a place where thoughts drifted free, unburdened by fear or doubt. In her mind's eye, the hills around her transformed. The tall grasses became silver waves on a starlit sea, gentle as lullabies. The distant village lights turned into glowing fireflies that blinked their own soft stories, and the trees that stood sentinel at the valley's edge bowed their branches in reverent salutation, ready to guard her dreams until the dawn. Under this blanket of stars, Mira felt time slow to a peaceful crawl, as though each star winked in unison to remind her that the universe itself was breathing alongside her, cradling her in its vast, loving expanse. She pictured each star as a home for someone's sweetest reverie, the child who dreamed of flying on a silver-winged bird, the weary traveler who longed for a place called hope, the old poet who carried in his heart words that had never found paper, and she sent gentle waves of gratitude skyward, her heart a lantern of light echoing the stars. As the minutes drifted by, constellations shimmered into new forms. The great bear prowled silently among the hills, the hunter aimed his bow toward the horizon, the lovers entwined their hearts across the sky, and Mira traced their shapes with a finger in the air, feeling as if she, too, had become part of this grand celestial story. The breeze carried a soft harmony, the distant murmur of an owl's song, the rippling of a hidden brook, the sigh of stones warmed by the day's sun, and these earthly melodies wove together with the silent music of the stars, creating a lullaby strong enough to hush even the busiest mind. Mira, lulled by the cosmic aria, lay back on the bench, her shawl nestling around her like a cloud, and let her eyelids drift closed. In the half-light behind her lids, she saw a pathway of glowing pebbles leading up through the heavens, and she walked along it barefoot, feeling each pebble's warmth pulse beneath her toes, guiding her deeper into dream. Up on that celestial path, she encountered gentle spirits made of stardust, some shaped like children, some like old friends, all with smiling eyes that held the wonders of galaxies. They beckoned her to follow until she reached a cozy cottage built of moonbeams and willow branches, its windows aglow with pearly light, and inside she found a table set for a feast of dreams, crystal goblets filled with the laughter of babies, platters piled with whispered secrets turned safe and kind, and loaves of soft bread baked with hope. Seated there were dreamers past and present, a novelist longing for words, a musician searching for harmony, a mother wishing for peace in her child's heart, and they smiled and welcomed Mira, offering her a cup of nighttime tea brewed from starlight and lavender. Lifting the goblet to her lips, she tasted the comfort of countless shared stories, each sip wrapping her in gentle reassurance that her own dreams mattered, that her voice was needed, and that she, too, was part of the great, unfolding tapestry. In that cozy hall, laughter and soft music filled the air, and Mira joined in, her heart light with connection as she danced on floors spun from comet tails and spun straw into starlight. When the feast ended, the dreamers gathered outside on a balcony woven of clouds, and above them, the sky blazed with every star that had ever burnt in the darkness, a canopy of brilliance so vast that Mira felt herself both infinitesimal and infinite, her small self embraced by something immeasurably grand. And as she gazed across that sparkling expanse, one star in particular shone with an inviting glow, as though winking directly at her. The dreamers nodded knowingly. It was the star that would carry Myra's own dreams back to the waking world. Then, with a hush like velvet, the balcony faded and the feast disappeared, and Myra found herself drifting down the glowing path once more, the pebbles humming beneath her feet until she slipped back onto the bench beneath the hillside sky, her shawl still cocooning her, her heart aglow with the night's marvels. There, in the soft hush of the sleeping hills, she felt the warmth of the dream feast lingering in her bones, a light that no morning shadow could completely quench. As the first hint of dawn painted the edge of the world in pastel gold, Myra rose quietly, brushing dew from the grasses, and whispered her thanks to the stars that had blessed her with their blanket of light. She carried that gentle glow back down the path to her home, stepping softly so as not to wake the sleeping world, and when she entered her bedroom, she placed a single glowing pebble, gift of the dream cottage, on her bedside table, where it would warm her through the day. Tucking herself beneath her quilt, she closed her eyes, feeling the hush of stars settle over her heart, and as sleep claimed her once more, she dreamed of rolling hills lit by cosmic blankets, of celestial feasts of starlit tea, and of a cosmos that whispered, "You belong," in every twinkle overhead. And though dawn would soon rise and chase the stars from the sky, their blanket over the hills remained etched within Myra's soul, a constant, loving promise that whenever night fell again, the hush of the universe would be there, ready to cradle her in its gentle embrace, sprinkling stars of dreams across her mind until she awoke refreshed, heart aglow, ready to light her own days with the magic of a blanket woven from 1,000 shining lights. As the clock struck midnight, and the stars outside twinkled like scattered diamonds across the dark velvet sky, a tiny mouse named Pip awoke in his cozy little burrow beneath the roots of a great oak tree. The world outside was still, the wind whispered softly through the leaves, and the moon cast a silver glow across the meadow, as if trying to light the way for a special journey. Pip, however, wasn't just any ordinary mouse. He had always dreamed of traveling far beyond the safety of his small home, beyond the tall grass of the meadow, and into the vast, unknown world that awaited him in the darkness. Tonight, something in the air felt different, magical even, and with a little nudge of excitement in his heart, Pip decided it was time to embark on his very own nighttime adventure. He scampered out of his burrow and looked around at the quiet meadow, bathed in the soft light of the moon. The flowers that had closed their petals for the night now glistened with dew, and the trees stood tall and silent, their shadows stretching across the earth. It was the perfect night for an adventure. With his tiny paws, Pip began to make his way across the meadow, his fur brushing against the soft grass as he passed. He was a little nervous, for he had never ventured so far before, but his curiosity and the pull of something greater kept him moving forward. His tiny whiskers twitched as he sniffed the night air, filled with the scents of earth and blossoms, a reminder of the beauty of the world he was about to explore. After a while, Pip came across a small stream that ran quietly through the meadow, its waters shimmering under the moonlight. The stream seemed to call to him, its gentle babbling a soft melody in the night. Pip crouched down by the water's edge, his reflection staring back at him from the still surface. He marveled at the way the moonlight danced on the water, creating tiny ripples that stretched far and wide, just like the possibilities of his journey. He wasn't sure where the stream led, but it felt like the perfect guide to follow on his adventure. Without hesitation, Pip scurried across the smooth stones, his tiny paws splashing gently in the cool water. As he journeyed along the stream, he came across a cluster of glowing fireflies that floated lazily above the water's surface, their soft golden light creating a beautiful glow in the darkness. Pip, entranced by their beauty, followed them as they drifted above the stream. The fireflies seemed to lead him through the meadow, their gentle glow lighting the way, as if they were guiding him towards something important. After a while, the fireflies disappeared into the trees, leaving Pip to continue on his own. But Pip wasn't afraid. The path ahead felt like a dream, as if the universe itself was beckoning him forward. The trees grew thicker as he walked, their trunks twisted and gnarled, their leaves whispering secrets to each other in the cool night air. Pip's heart raced with excitement as he ventured deeper into the forest. The world around him was alive with sounds, the rustling of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the chirp of crickets, and the soft murmur of the wind. It was a symphony of the night, a song that only those who dared to wander could truly hear. After some time, Pip stumbled upon a hidden glade deep within the forest. It was a small clearing, bathed in soft moonlight, and in the center, there was an ancient stone well, its surface covered in moss and ivy. The well seemed to hum with a quiet energy, as if it held secrets from long ago. Intrigued, Pip scampered closer, his tiny paws brushing against the smooth stone. He peered into the well, and for a moment he saw nothing but the deep, dark void beneath. But then, something caught his eye, a faint glimmer of light, far below, just out of reach. It was a tiny star, shining brightly in the depths of the well. For a moment, Pip wondered if he had imagined it, but then he realized it was real. It was a star, tiny and far away, but so bright, so beautiful. He had never seen anything like it before. Without thinking, Pip reached out a tiny paw and touched the stone of the well, as if hoping to bring the star closer. And to his surprise, the star seemed to respond. It twinkled once, twice, and then, as if acknowledging Pip's presence, it began to rise. Slowly, the star ascended from the depths of the well, its glow growing stronger with each passing moment, until it emerged from the darkness and hovered just above Pip's head. It was a tiny star, small enough to fit in his paws, but its light was warm and inviting, like the softest of embraces. Pip felt a rush of wonder and awe as the star circled above him, casting its glow on everything around him. It was as if the forest itself had come alive with the star's light, the trees swaying in rhythm with the gentle breeze, the flowers opening their petals once again to bathe in the star's glow. In that moment, Pip realized that this was no ordinary journey. This was a magical adventure, a journey to the heart of the world, where dreams and stars came alive in the quiet of the night. He closed his eyes and let the star's light fill him, feeling as if he were floating in a sea of pure joy and wonder. When he opened his eyes again, the star was no longer alone. It had been joined by other stars, tiny specks of light that twinkled like distant dreams, each one shimmering with its own unique glow. The stars danced above Pip, their soft light bathing the glade in a warmth that made him feel as if he were home. And in that moment, Pip knew that no matter where his journey took him, he would always have the stars to guide him, to light his way through the darkness, and to remind him that adventure and wonder were always just a dream away. As the night wore on, the stars slowly faded, one by one, as dawn's first light began to touch the edge of the world. The moon, now a pale crescent in the sky, bade Pip farewell with a final, soft glow, and the forest around him began to stir with the sounds of waking creatures. But Pip wasn't afraid to return home. His heart was full, his spirit light, and he knew that, in the quiet of his burrow, he would fall asleep with the stars still dancing in his dreams, waiting for the next nighttime journey to begin. With a final glance at the glade, Pip turned and made his way back home, his tiny paws carrying him through the now familiar forest, across the stream, and back into the meadow, where the first rays of dawn kissed the earth. As he settled back into his burrow, the soft blanket of the night's adventure still wrapped around him. Pip closed his eyes, his heart at peace, and drifted off to sleep, ready to dream of the stars, the well, and the magical journey he had taken. And as he slept, the stars watched over him, keeping him safe and warm until the next adventure came, and the tiny mouse would set off once more, guided by the glow of the stars and the promise of another magical journey. As the day began to fade and the soft hues of twilight stretched across the sky, a sleepy little sunbeam named Solara bid farewell to the world below. Her journey across the sky had been long and bright, casting her golden warmth on the earth all day. But now, as the sun began its descent beyond the horizon, Solara felt the pull of rest, a gentle invitation from the peaceful night. She floated lazily down from her place high above, gliding through the cool evening air, her glow softening as she neared the ground. The trees below seemed to stretch their branches toward her, their leaves shimmering in the fading light. The flowers, now closing their petals for the night, seemed to nod in quiet acknowledgement of her presence, grateful for the warmth she had shared with them throughout the day. Solara's journey had always been a tireless one, traveling from dawn till dusk, spreading light and warmth to the world below. But as the final rays of the sun began to fade, she could feel the weight of the day lifting, the gentle tug of sleep pulling her into its embrace. Her soft golden light seemed to flicker a little, as though it too was growing tired after its long day of work. Yet, there was a quiet beauty in this moment. For Solara, sleep wasn't an end, but a peaceful pause in her never-ending journey. The sky around her began to deepen into a soft indigo, the first stars of the evening twinkling faintly above. The world below, which had been buzzing with the energy of the day, now began to settle into its nightly rhythm. The gentle chirping of crickets filled the air, and the cool evening breeze whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of fresh earth and blooming flowers. But it was not only the earth that welcomed the evening. Solara, the little sunbeam, felt the warmth of the world she had cared for all day, now softly cradling her as she prepared to rest. She had a special spot where she liked to rest when the day was done, a quiet glade at the edge of a tranquil forest. The trees there, with their wide trunks and thick leaves, formed a gentle shelter that seemed to invite her into their cool embrace. Tonight, however, was different. As she drifted toward her favorite spot, she noticed something new, a soft, silvery glow rising from the ground. It was as if the earth itself was glowing, a quiet shimmer that felt almost magical. Solara floated closer, her glow now dim and soft, her golden light mixing with the silvery glow below. It was then that she saw it, a small, delicate flower that had bloomed under the moon's soft light. The petals were pure white, and they shimmered with a soft glow, as if the flower itself was holding the light of the stars within. Solara had never seen anything like it before. She felt drawn to it, her heart swelling with the desire to give this little flower the warmth of her last hug before she rested. Slowly, she approached, her tiny golden form hovering gently above the flower. As she hovered over it, her soft light reached out and touched the delicate petals, wrapping them in a warm embrace. The flower seemed to respond to her touch, its petals opening slightly, as though receiving the warmth it had longed for all day. Solara smiled, or at least she felt as if she did, for she knew that her warmth would carry the little flower through the cold night ahead. It was a tender moment, a quiet exchange of light and love, the final hug of the day. As the last of her glow gently faded, Solara felt the soft pull of sleep. Her glow dimmed even further, and the cool night air wrapped around her like a soft blanket. The flower, now fully open, seemed to glow brighter, its petals basking in the warmth of Solara's final gift. Solara floated back slowly, her light now barely a shimmer. She found her resting place beneath the shade of the great trees, and with one last look at the flower that she had cared for, she finally settled into the stillness of the night. The stars above twinkled softly, watching over her as she drifted into a peaceful sleep. It was a sleep filled with dreams of her journey through the sky, of the warmth she had shared with the earth, and of the little flower that now carried her light in its heart. In the quiet of the night, Solara's presence lingered, a memory of the day's warmth, a reminder of the love and light she had given to the world. And as the night unfolded, the little flower continued to glow softly, carrying the warmth of the sunbeam's last hug into the quiet of the dark, waiting for the sun to rise again. Solara knew that in the morning, the earth would once again be bathed in her light, and the world would awaken to another day of warmth and wonder. But for now, she was at rest, her journey complete for the moment, her heart full of peace. And as the world slept beneath a blanket of night, Solara, the sleepy sunbeam, dreamed her soft dreams, ready to greet the morning sun with a fresh, golden glow. And so, in the gentle embrace of sleep, the cycle continued, each day a new beginning, and each night, a peaceful pause, until the next hug of light would come to warm the world once more. Deep within an ancient forest, where sunlight filtered softly through interlaced branches and the earth breathed with the quiet rhythms of moss and loam, the trees gathered every dusk in a secret vigil, and as the last bird song faded and twilight draped its velvet cloak across the sky, each trunk, limb, and leaf would slip into a hidden world of dream, sharing visions so wondrous that even the stars paused to listen. In that sacred half-light, the regal oaks dreamed of ancestors whose acorns fell into soft earth millennia ago, of daring saplings that braved storms to stand tall, and of the laughter of children weaving crowns from fallen twigs beneath their boughs, while the slender birches drifted through dreams of moonlit glades where their white bark shimmered like silver candles in the hush of night and where elusive foxes paused to whisper secrets of the underbrush. Nearby, the mighty redwoods, those sentinels of centuries, dreamed of distant rainstorms that began as clouds gathering over faraway mountains, of birds unseen by human eyes soaring between their crowns, and of the forest's heartbeat pulsing through every root and rivulet that wound around their bases, carrying messages of water and song. Maples, draped in crowns of springtime blossoms, dreamed of golden autumns when their leaves painted the ground in fiery symphonies, of woodpeckers drumming gentle beats that kept time with the seasons, and of the soft rustle of wind that tickled their branches like a child's playful fingers. Slender pines reached inward with dreams of mountain air and whispering winds that carried the smell of distant seas, of nocturnal symphonies sung by crickets and frogs below, and of the comfort they offered to weary travelers who pressed small hands to their rough bark in search of strength. The willows, dancers of solitude, dreamed of gentle riverbanks where they dipped trailing tendrils into glassy water, conjuring visions of fish that glided beneath their reflection, and of children in small boats who paused to rest beneath their shade and listen to the subtle hum of the current. In a secret hollow ringed by elderberries, a circle of aspens dreamed with trembling leaves, recalling each story, the one passed by a wind spirit, the lullaby whispered by a wandering minstrel, the silent prayer uttered by a lone hermit, and their trembling shared these fragments of memory like precious jewels. The ancient cedars, their fragrant wood treasured by time, drifted into dreams of mountain peaks where the air was thin and crystalline, of eagles soaring on invisible currents, and of distant horizons that stretched into realms of possibility. Every tree, whether tall or slender, young or old, shared in this nightly congress, their dreams weaving together into a tapestry of wonder that pulsed through the forest's heart. And at the forest's edge, where a gentle brook wound its way beneath fallen logs and smooth stones, the rush of water joined the dream chorus, carrying echoes of nocturnal verses downstream to places unknown. Within this dreamscape, a lone wanderer named Mila, drawn by a curiosity she could not name, followed a silver path of moonlight through the undergrowth, her footsteps soft on a carpet of pine needles and leaf mold. She had heard rumors of the forest's secret dreams, those whispered only to the night, and her heart thrummed with anticipation as she came upon the ancient gathering, where trunks glowed faintly beneath the stars and leaves rustled with voices older than memory. Mila pressed her palm to the rough bark of a towering oak and closed her eyes, allowing the oak's dream to flood her mind. She saw a child's laughter echoing through sun-dappled clearings, felt the surge of sap rising with spring's promise, and heard the low chant of roots sharing water deep below. Then, beneath a cluster of birches, her ear caught the sweet music of wind passing through white bark, carrying tales of distant lands across valleys and meadows, and she felt the birch's slender, dreaming form sway in rhythm with the song. A pine offered her the crisp scent of snow-laden ridges and the quiet hush of winter night, reminding her that rest was as vital as action, and a willow brushed her cheek with the memory of a lover's tear fallen by the riverbank and the soft resolve that every sorrow could be lulled away with time's patient touch. All around her, Mila, bathed in the dreams of trees, receiving silent counsel from ancient spirits wrapped in bark and leaf, and though she remained human, flesh and bone with a heart prone to worry, she felt her burdens lighten. Each dream she shared renewed her faith that every secret longing, whether for kindness, courage, or peace, found its echo in the forest's dreaming murmurs, for the trees held every whisper the earth had ever carried. As the moon drifted toward its zenith, the forest's dream conclave reached its peak. The oaks, cedars, maples, and birches wove their visions into a single, golden tapestry that glowed like dawn inside the night, and Mila, awestruck, felt as though she stood at the center of creation's most tender truth, that even the oldest creatures carried hope. The wind, that gentle courier of secrets, broadened into a soft gale, rustling every leaf to share this unified dream beyond the forest borders, letting fragments fall like stardust on distant fields, villages, and meadows, ensuring that no heart lay too far for comfort. And in that sacred moment, Mila understood the ancient promise. When trees dreamed at night, they spoke not only for themselves but for every living being who hungered for peace, weaving a net of silent compassion that spanned the world. As the first pale fingers of dawn touched the horizon, the moon sighed farewell and slipped beneath the sky's edge. The stars blinked their final goodnight, and the trees began to awaken, their dreams folded gently into bark and root, sinking deep to nourish the forest for seasons yet to come. And with a final rustle of leaves, the ancient forest settled back into the rhythms of day. Mila, her spirit glowing with the forest's secret wisdom, retraced her steps down the silver path, carrying in her chest the echo of 1,000 tree dreams, knowing that whenever her own heart felt heavy, she could return to the edge of the woods, listen closely to the wind in the boughs, and share in the forest's dreaming heart, a timeless lullaby whispered by leaves that slept by starlight and awoke with the dawn, forever cradling secret dreams beneath the canopy of the world. In the soft hush of midnight, when the world lay wrapped in velvet shadows and the moon hung low and luminous above the rooftops, there stood in a small cottage by the edge of a silent forest a delicate dream catcher. its hoop woven from willow twigs and bound with silken threads spun from the light of stars, and its feathers, white as drifting clouds at dawn, trembled softly in the cool night breeze, ready to gather the dreams of all who slept beneath its silent watch. Far below, in a small bed, tucked against the window, a child named Mara lay nestled beneath a patchwork quilt stitched from memories of summer meadows and winter's hush, her heart full of unspoken wishes and uncharted hopes, and though her eyes were closed, her spirit remained half awake, curious for the night's magic, sensing that tonight, more than any other, the dream catcher would not simply hang as an ornament but would come alive under the moon's tender gaze. As the silver light filtered through the window pane, painting the walls in faint, dancing patterns, the dream catcher's threads glowed softly, each knot and loop humming with an ancient energy that pulsed in time with the slow, steady rhythm of Mara's breath. Outside, the forest stirred in respectful silence. The old oaks shivered their leaves, the pines sighed in low, comforting tones, and the faint rustle of creatures stirring in burrows and nests carried on the night air like a lullaby. Within the dreamcatcher's circle, strands of moonbeams wove themselves through the web, brightening its silken maze until it resembled a miniature galaxy suspended above Mara's bed, each feather poised to catch the gentle drift of slumber-bound visions. Suddenly, the deepest hush fell, as if the world itself paused to witness the moment when the dreamcatcher would begin its work. Mara's mind, adrift between wake and sleep, felt a lifting lightness, and a soft voice, no louder than a whisper, seemed to speak in her ear, calling her name with infinite kindness. Compelled by a gentle warmth, she opened one eye and saw, suspended above her pillow, the dream catcher shimmering with an inner glow. Its feathers pulsed like the slow beating of a heart, and from its center, a single thread of pure moonlight stretched downward, inviting her to follow. Mara sat up, her small frame trembling with excitement and a trace of fear, but the dream catcher's light soothed her like a mother's lullaby, and she reached out a tentative hand. The moment her fingertips brushed the silky thread, the world around her melted into silver mist, and she found herself drifting upward, weightless, carried by a current of moonlight that guided her through the open window and into the star-strung sky. Below, the cottage faded into a patchwork of soft shadows. The trees uncurled their boughs to let her pass, and the forest floor slipped away until all that remained was the moon's gentle orbit and the dreamcatcher's glowing thread knitting her into a celestial journey. Around her, stars twinkled in delight, forming pathways of light that beckoned her onward, and the dreamcatcher's feathers fluttered in cosmic breezes, scattering tiny motes of stardust that danced like fireflies across the velvet expanse. Mara felt her heart swell with wonder as she soared through the night, passing by planets bathed in rings of pastel clouds, skimming across the gleaming surface of a tranquil sea that mirrored the heavens, and threading her way between wisps of nebulae that glowed like lanterns in the deep. Each feather of the dreamcatcher seemed alive, extending additional silken strands that reached out to gather drifting fragments of dreams left behind by sleepers all over the world, snippets of laughter shared between siblings, the hush of a mother's whispered goodnight, the spark of a new hope ignited in a child's heart, and each thread wove these fragments into a tapestry of collective wonder that shimmered in the dark. As they journeyed deeper into the night, the dreamcatcher guided Mara toward a hidden realm made entirely of dreams, fields of soft cloud where woolly sheep leaped through strands of silver light, forests of crystalline trees whose branches chimed with the gentle music of memory, and rivers of liquid moonlight that carried floating lanterns carved from dreams yet to be dreamt. Along the banks of one such river, Mara paused to breathe in the sweet scent of unseen flowers that bloomed only in dreams, their petals translucent as glass and ablaze with the colors of sunrise yet to come. The dream catcher's thread anchored her gently to the river's edge, and she knelt to watch as tiny creatures, gentle beings of starshine and shadow, drank from the luminous waters, their forms shifting like smoke, and offered her a soft nod of greeting before darting back into the moonlit mist. Mara felt both a part of this wondrous tapestry and a witness to its subtle beauty, her heart echoing its quiet grandeur. But the dreamcatcher's call was not yet complete. It glowed brighter, and the feathers beckoned her onward, toward a grand archway woven from moonbeams and crowned with cosmic blossoms that bloomed only for passing dreamers. As she passed beneath the arch, the world around her shifted once more. The sky turned into a vast hall of twinkling lights, each star a tiny window into a sleeping soul's imagination, and the dream catcher unfurled its feathers wide, transforming into a silent harp whose strings resonated with the lullabies of every heart it had touched. Mara closed her eyes, listening to the silent melody that threaded through her mind, a song of comfort composed by the woven dreams of humanity. The notes rose in gentle waves, each one carrying a story, the bravery of a child facing the dark, the tender longing of an elder recalling lost love, the spark of creativity in an artist painting hope across a blank canvas. And as they intertwined, they created a symphony so profound that even the stars paused their shimmering to listen. Tears of pure wonder wetted Mara's lashes, and when she opened her eyes, she found herself floating above the dreamscape, the dream catcher's harp fading back into its familiar shape, its feathers soft once again. With the symphony complete, the dream catcher's glowing core pulsed once, and a single droplet of its moonlit magic descended, dissolving into Mara's heart and filling her with a warmth that spread through every fiber of her being. At that moment, the moon shone with tender approval, and the dream catcher gently guided Mara back along its silken thread, through the fields of cloud, beside the crystal river, and past the luminous orchid forest, until she drifted once more into her bedroom, the single droplet of moonlight resting like a heartbeat beneath her breast. The dreamcatcher's glow softened to a mere shimmer before settling into its nightly watch, and Mara lay back against her pillows, her heart full of wonder and her spirit cradled by the gift of dreams it had shared with her. Outside the window, the forest sighed in contentment, and the stars winked their goodnight as the gentle chorus of the night resumed. Crickets singing softly, the breeze murmuring through the leaves, and the distant lull of ocean waves carried on the wind. Mara's eyelids drifted closed, her breathing slow and even, as she carried the warmth of the dream catcher's moonlit embrace into sleep, her dreams now a canvas alive with the wonders she had witnessed. In the days to follow, her heart remained alight with quiet courage and boundless curiosity, and though she could not fully explain the magic she had known, she often found her eyes drawn to the night sky, where the dream catcher hung like a quiet promise in her window. And each eve, as the moon ascended into its place and the stars gathered in their celestial choir, the dream catcher would stir, its threads weaving once more, ready to carry the dreams of another sleeping soul into the moonlight, ensuring that no matter how dark the night might seem, a single silken thread could guide every dreamer to the heart of the most wondrous adventures, cradling them in the gentle embrace of stars until dawn's first light softly chased the shadows away. As the night descended softly upon the world, the wind whispered through the trees with a gentle, soothing hum. The air was calm, and a cool, peaceful silence had settled over the land. The stars twinkled in the vast sky above, their light casting a soft, silvery glow on the earth. Deep in the heart of a quiet meadow, far away from the hustle of the day, the wind began to stir, its whispers carrying a tale of dreams, secrets, and the quiet comfort of sleep. The wind was no ordinary breeze. It was a sleepy wind, one that carried with it the softest footsteps, each step taken with great care, as if trying not to disturb the slumber of the world. This wind was special. It had been traveling the earth for as long as the stars had shone, weaving its way through forests, over mountains, and across oceans. Every night, it would return to the meadow, its footsteps lighter and softer than ever before, as though it was drawing closer to a resting place of peace. As the moon rose high in the sky, casting its cool light over the meadow, the sleepy wind began its nightly journey. It swirled gently, its footsteps barely making a sound as it moved through the tall grass, brushing lightly against the soft petals of the wildflowers that dotted the meadow. It was a quiet dance, one that only the night could understand, its rhythm slow and deliberate, like a lullaby sung to the earth itself. The trees, their branches heavy with the weight of sleep, swayed gently in time with the wind's footsteps. The leaves rustled softly, like a chorus of whispers, as if they too were singing a gentle lullaby. The night creatures, the owls and the rabbits and the deer, all nestled into their resting places, their bodies curling up in cozy corners of the meadow, drawn to the rhythm of the sleepy wind. The wind passed over them, its footsteps soft and comforting, as it wrapped the land in a warm embrace, inviting all who lived within its reach to surrender to the sweet embrace of sleep. There was something magical about this wind, something that made the world feel safe and still. The wind carried with it a sense of calm that reached into the hearts of those who heard its whispers, guiding them into a world of dreams. And so, the sleepy wind moved on, passing over the meadow and into the nearby forest, where the trees stood tall, their branches stretching toward the heavens. The wind's footsteps were softer here, as it glided through the forest with a grace that only the night could understand. The cool air whispered through the trees, brushing against their bark, leaving behind a trail of gentle dreams in its wake. The wind danced among the branches, its footsteps light and silent, as if it were walking on the edges of the stars themselves. In the heart of the forest, where the shadows grew long and the night grew deeper, the wind found its way to a small clearing. The ground was covered in soft moss, and the air was thick with the scent of pine and earth. Here, the sleepy wind took a moment to rest, its footsteps slowing, its whispers softer, as if it too was drifting off into a peaceful slumber. The stars above twinkled brightly, their light reflecting off the forest canopy, casting a gentle glow on the clearing. The wind's footsteps became a soft murmur, barely a whisper, as it settled into the night, its journey complete for the moment. It was here, in this quiet, tranquil place, that the sleepy wind found its solace. The land, the trees, the flowers, and the animals all slept in harmony, their dreams floating on the breeze that carried them into the heart of the night. The sleepy wind, its steps now nearly silent, stretched out like a blanket, covering the world with its warmth. As it drifted off into a peaceful slumber, the moon continued its steady rise in the sky, casting its gentle light over the land, watching over the world as it slept. The stars, too, twinkled brightly, like tiny sentinels of the night, keeping watch over the dreams of all who rested below. And so, the night passed, the wind's footsteps fading into the quiet hum of the world. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, the sleepy wind stirred once more. Its steps were slow and gentle, its whispers soft and tender, as it began its journey once again, leaving behind the land it had cradled in its sleep. The meadow, the forest, and all the creatures that had rested there awoke, stretching in the morning light, ready to face the new day. But the wind, ever so gentle, had already moved on, its footsteps carried on the breeze, soft and peaceful, like a reminder that even in the midst of the day, the quiet magic of the night lingered in the air, waiting to return once more when the world was ready to rest again. And so, the cycle continued, the wind's footsteps echoing in the hearts of all who slept, a soft and soothing lullaby that reminded the world to slow down, breathe deeply, and listen to the gentle whispers of the night. The footsteps of the sleepy wind were not just a part of nature, they were the embodiment of peace, carrying with them the promise of dreams, of rest, and of the quiet, comforting embrace of the night. Each night, as the world grew still, the sleepy wind would return, its footsteps as soft as the first light of dawn, and the land would once again be cradled in its gentle embrace, ready to drift off into the peaceful slumber of another night. The gentle footsteps of the sleepy wind would continue, quietly moving through the world, leaving behind a trail of dreams, until the end of time, when all would sleep in harmony, cradled by the wind's soft, steady rhythm. In the wide, hushed expanse of twilight, when the sky softens to a deep indigo and the first stars begin to blink awake like distant lanterns, there comes a moment so still that the world itself seems to inhale, pausing in reverent anticipation of the night's silent promise of dreams. And it is in this sacred hush that a little girl named Serafina stands at her window, her small hands pressed against the cool glass, eyes wide with wonder, for she senses the gentle magic stirring beyond her door. The last embers of sunset fade into a veil of velvet darkness, and in that dim light, she can make out the silhouettes of swaying pines, shadows lengthening like soft brushstrokes across the hills, while far off in the valley below, the rooftops of the village glow warmly with lamplight, each a small beacon inviting dreamers to rest. As Serafina breathes in the cool night air, it carries the faint perfume of jasmine and wood smoke, mingling with the distant murmur of an owl's hoot and the soft rustle of wings drawn to hidden nests, and she closes her eyes, feeling the day's worries, unspoken arguments, missed chances, unanswered questions, begin to slip away like sand between her fingers. In that moment of surrender, the night whispers its promise, a vow carried on the wind that tonight, each heart will be cradled by dreams spun from starlight and moonbeams, woven through the fabric of sleep with threads of hope and comfort, and Serafina, her eyelids fluttering like moth wings, leans into the darkness, trusting the silent promise to guide her into realms unimagined. Behind her, the world carries on its gentle preparation for rest. Shutters close against the quiet, a dog's low bark drifts through cobblestone streets, and the sweet, steady lapping of a distant river hums a lullaby to the forest's edge, where fireflies blink in sync with the lowering of the curtain of night. All across the fields and hills, flowers close their petals in fragrant bows, cherishing the dew-laced dreams that will form on their leaves, and the tall grasses fold in gentle applause as the breeze, soft as a mother's sigh, wanders through the meadow, carrying the night's silent promise to every sleeping ear. Serafina, now tucked beneath her patchwork quilt, her small chest rising in a rhythm that mirrors the earth's heartbeat, drifts off as the sky above her window becomes a tapestry of light, constellations weaving their ancient tales. Orion's belt points to distant realms, Cassiopeia arches her throne in prideful grace, and the gentle swan Cygnus glides across the heavens in quiet homage to the travelers who will soon find peace in dreams. In her half-waking reverie, Serafina imagines herself stepping through the window into the starry expanse, each step cushioned by clouds spun from silver mist, and as she wanders further, guided by the moon's soft glow, she sees worlds made only of dreams, fields where glass flowers sing when touched by starlight, forests where the trees hum lullabies older than time, and rivers whose waters shimmer with the secrets of far-off lands. There, she meets gentle creatures born of sleep, floating deer whose antlers drip with dew that forms tiny galaxies, rabbits with fur like midnight silk who whisper tales of hope in her ear, and butterflies whose wings are painted with dreams of tomorrow, and they offer her tiny lanterns of moonlight to guide her deeper into the tapestry of the night. Each lantern carries a promise that no fear is too great to be soothed, no sorrow too heavy to be lifted, no longing too distant to be realized, for the night's silent pledge holds all these within its soft folds. As Serafina accepts one glowing lantern, she feels its warmth fill her heart with courage, and in that warmth, she understands that dreams are not mere fantasies but the seeds of tomorrow's reality, planted in the fertile soil of slumber and nurtured by the gentle whispers of the night. Meanwhile, back in her room, the dream catcher above her bed, spun from willow vines and strung with threads of moonbeams, begins to hum with a secret tune, its feathers swaying in the unseen breeze, gathering any stray starlight and weaving it into patterns of protection, ensuring that only the purest, sweetest dreams find their way through the web to cradle Serafina's spirit. Outside, the wind, now a quiet companion, tiptoes through the lattice of window panes, bringing with it the distant echo of soft lullabies sung by the mountains to the valleys, carrying a universal benediction that each soul, young or old, weary or hopeful, may find refuge in the boundless landscape of dreams. In the world beyond her window, other dreamers, travelers worn by long roads, mothers cradling newborns, poets searching for the perfect word, close their eyes and feel the night's hush swirl around them like a protective cloak, tucking them gently into the cradle of the infinite. A lone musician in a high tower listens to the same promise, the chords of his lullaby guided by the hum of silence outside his door, as his fingers trace melodies that will dance across the air to soothe lonely hearts. In a cottage by the sea, an old fisherman rests at last, drifting into dreams of calm waters and friendly dolphins, safe in the knowledge that the night's vow holds him fast until morning's first light. Far across the plains, a young astronomer falls asleep at her telescope, her final sight the twinkling of galaxies, dreaming of distant stars becoming her companions in the silent journey of space and time. And high above all these, the stars themselves listen, their soft sparkles echoing the silent promise they have carried for eons, that in the stillness of night, when darkness seems most deep, there lies an unwavering sanctuary where every heart may reunite with hope, where every fear may dissolve into light, and where every dream may find the wings to become real. As the night advances, Serafina's journey through dream continues, her soul dancing between realms crafted by her own imagination and guided by the steadfast radiance of countless lights above. She learns that the night's promise is not a mere wish but an unbreakable covenant between earth and sky, a bond sealed in the hush of twilight and honored in the breath of every dreamer. And when the dawn finally breaks, painting the horizon in hues of rose and gold, the promise lingers like a gentle warmth against her cheek, a tender reminder that though the stars may fade from sight, their pledge remains alive in the quiet chambers of the heart, calling her always back to the soft embrace of dreams, where the world's wonders await in silence, ready to welcome any soul brave enough to listen to the night's silent promise.